Welcome to Trauma Bay. Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. That's from Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who understood something we often overlook, that our beliefs shape our behaviors far more than the facts of reality ever do. And when it comes to morality, what we think is right or wrong, just or unjust, few forces shape our beliefs more deeply than religion. But what if the moral instincts we trust so much aren't really ours? What if they've been overwritten by a system we didn't design but inherited?
That's what we're talking about today. How religion hijacks your moral compass, and how that changes everything from your everyday decisions to your view of humanity itself.
Most people think of morality as something we just have, like eyesight or a heartbeat. And in a sense, that's not wrong. Evolution has equipped us with certain instincts: empathy, fairness, cooperation. These are deeply human traits. You don't need a holy book to feel guilt after hurting someone. You don't need commandments to feel compassion when you see someone suffering. But religion steps in and repackages these instincts, turns them into rules, and claims authorship. It's like putting a logo on a tree and pretending you planted it. Religious morality often starts with this assumption, that without divine instruction, humans would just spiral into chaos, that we're naturally selfish, violent, or immoral, and only the threat of divine punishment can keep us in line. But this idea isn't just bleak. It's also wrong. Research in moral psychology shows that even children raised without religion still develop strong moral instincts. They understand fairness. They form judgments about harm and justice. They show empathy long before they can pronounce the word. Morality, it turns out, isn't downloaded from a scripture. It's wired into us.
So where does religion come in? It offers a framework, yes, but also a filter. One that can distort those natural instincts, twist them, sometimes even reverse them.
Think about how often religious systems frame obedience as morality, not kindness, not understanding, but obedience. That subtle shift from doing what's good to doing what's commanded is the hijack. Once you accept that morality is defined by a divine authority, then anything that authority commands becomes good, no matter how cruel or irrational it might be. This is how you get people believing that stoning someone for adultery is a form of justice, or that loving someone of the same sex is a sin, or that believing in the wrong God is worse than murder. Not because these ideas come from human empathy, but because they're handed down as sacred law. In this way, religion can replace your internal compass with an external one, a compass that always points to the pulpit, not the conscience. And once that switch is made, once morality becomes obedience, then questioning the rules becomes itself a moral failure. Even if your gut is telling you something is wrong, religion trains you to suppress that instinct, to override it, because doubting a command becomes more dangerous than the consequences of following it. History is filled with examples of this. People persecuted, exiled, even executed, not because they committed crimes, but because they challenged dogma. Socrates was accused of corrupting the youth for encouraging critical thinking. Galileo was condemned for pointing a telescope at the stars. In both cases, it wasn't the act, but the disobedience that provoked outrage. That's not morality, that's control. And here's where it gets even more unsettling. When morality is defined by authority, it becomes tribal. You start dividing the world into us and them, the saved and the damned, the faithful and the heretical. Morality stops being about how we treat each other and starts being about who we identify with. This is why religious morality so often aligns with group loyalty. Helping someone outside your belief system might be seen as less virtuous, or even wrong. People have been taught to turn away from family members who leave the faith, to cut off friends, to disown children,
to vote against rights, all in the name of what's moral. But that's not morality. That's allegiance. And it shows how religion can steer our sense of right and wrong away from empathy and toward conformity. Now, that doesn't mean religious people are immoral. Far from it. Most are just doing what they sincerely believe is right. But the system they've inherited often punishes doubt, rewards obedience, and rewires empathy to serve ideology. And here's something most people don't think about. When religion claims to be the sole source of morality, it quietly delegitimizes every other form of ethical reasoning. Philosophical ethics, human rights frameworks, cultural norms, all of these get dismissed as man-made, while religious law is treated as eternal truth. But if morality is only valid when it comes from God, then human judgment is always suspect, which is ironic, because those same religious laws were written down by humans. This is the blind spot. People are taught to believe that religious morality is pure and unchanging, but in reality, it's constantly evolving. What used to be considered moral in one era becomes abhorrent in another. Slavery was once justified with scripture. So was the subjugation of women. So were holy wars. And the same texts are still with us. They haven't changed. What's changed is us. We evolved. We developed better reasoning. We expanded our empathy. And we started recognizing that morality isn't about pleasing a divine authority. It's about reducing harm, increasing well-being, and treating people with dignity. The truth is, moral progress has often happened in spite of religion, not because of it. The abolition of slavery, women's rights, gay rights, freedom of speech, all of these movements faced resistance from religious institutions. And yet, they prevailed, not because of commandments, but because people listened to their conscience, not a clergy. That's not to say religion is incapable of good. People can find comfort, community, and purpose in it. But when it claims a monopoly on morality, when it treats obedience as virtue, when it suppresses doubt, diversity, and dissent, then it becomes a system that doesn't just guide the moral compass, it replaces it. We need to ask, what kind of morality requires threats of hell to enforce it? What kind of moral code depends on silencing questions? Real morality isn't afraid of scrutiny. It doesn't require blind faith. It grows stronger when tested. And when we look at the world today, with all its complexity, all its nuance, we need a moral compass that responds to reality, not ritual. One that evolves with new information, with greater empathy, with deeper understanding. That kind of morality can't be hijacked, because it doesn't come from outside of us. It comes from within, and it's powered by reason, compassion, and the courage to think for ourselves.